Started. So our speaker today is Chris Murphy, who's the president of the Santa Cruz Warriors. He's also senior vice president with the whole Golden State Warrior organization, involved in franchise development more widely. So Chris grew up in northern New York State around Syracuse, came to California about 21 years ago, I think you said, and has been president of the Warriors ever since. The Warriors are just an important part of the Santa Cruz community. I mean, the biggest space we have in town now is probably the arena. It's used for a wide variety of things and interacts with all sorts of businesses in town. And Chris has been a very good local citizen, and a couple of years back was selected as Person of the Year by the Santa Cruz Chamber of Commerce. It's hard to visualize what Chris's job is, really. That's a pretty complicated business. To me, one of the most complicated parts are a lot of his very highly paid employers are about 19 years old and on this sort of edge of superstardom, and yet they're his employees, and it must make for a very complicated business to run, and we're going to hear the inside story from Chris. Chris.
Thank you, Barry, for that lovely welcome. Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity to speak with you today. First and foremost, I need to get a temperature of the room. I know from a couple people that have some amazing T-shirts on that we have some fans here, but how many people in this room have ever been to a Santa Cruz Warriors game? I like that. I'm taking mental note of who didn't raise their hand, so we'll remember that later. But really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. I know we've got some time. I'd love to answer questions as well at the end of the talk. As a little bit of a teaser, it's a sports thing, so I may or may not have some giveaways for people that ask great questions later. So there's always got to be a prize in it in the sports world. So we'll dive right in. You won't bother me if you raise your hand and ask a question in the middle of the presentation, or you can wait till the end. It really doesn't matter to me. So what we'll go through today, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, kind of my background, how I came to be where I am. I'll tell you a little bit about the G League in general, the growth that it's undergone since coming to Santa Cruz. We'll talk about some success stories on the court, off the court, along the court. We'll look at this season at a glance at kind of what's already happened and what we have looking forward to. We're about in the middle of our season right now. We'll talk about some of our community work. It's a big part of who we are as the Santa Cruz Warriors, is being a positive contributor to Santa Cruz County and the entire community. And then, like I said, we'll open it up for questions. Sound good? All right. So a little bit about me. I'm going to move this so I could see. Maybe not going to mess with the cords. There we go. A little bit about myself. So I have a dual role with the Warriors. So I'm the president of the Santa Cruz Warriors. I've been that since 2015. And a few years ago, I also took on the title of senior vice president of franchise development of the Golden State Warriors. Real briefly about what that means. I also oversee our youth sports academy on a day-to-day basis. So we serve about 30 to 40,000 kids annually throughout the Bay Area, primarily in youth basketball. We have a headquarters in Oakland. But we run camps. We run camps in Santa Cruz. We run camps in, the North Bay, all over the place. So we do touch a lot of kids from that perspective as well. There was a couple other aspects of franchise development. The easiest way to think about it is anything that Golden State is involved with that isn't the Warriors or the Valkyries kind of funnels through me. So we have a lot of other, business endeavors that we undertake, and those kind of are part of what I owe my purview. But being the president of the Santa Cruz Warriors is the dramatic majority of my time and my core function. I was born and raised in Skaneateles, New York, which is a town of, I see a couple of head nods. Has anybody ever heard of Skaneateles? Yes, so we're about a half hour outside of Syracuse, a small little lake town of about 6,000 or 7,000 people. It is utopia in the summer. It's beautiful. The weather's amazing. You can be out on the lake. I grew up working at a golf course and being out on the boat all the time. But in the winter, I'm really happy I live in California. My whole family still lives within like 2 or 3 miles of each other. I'm really close with my family. They have long given up the thought of me moving back back there. Originally, when I came to the Warriors after college, it was for an entry-level ticket sales job with the Golden State Warriors back in 2005. I had a few different opportunities across the NBA, and I decided to come to California and work for Golden State. And I think my family thought, and I thought, oh, I'll stay for a year or two and, do the California thing for a couple of years and then move back home around my family, and do life there. And here we are 21 years later, and no desire to go back. I love to visit. It's a beautiful place. I FaceTime with my parents every day, with our kids and whatnot, but I love living here and I wouldn't change it for anything. So just a little career arc. Like I said, I started in 2005 on the ticketing side of the Golden State Warriors, working with different groups of people to come out to games. So this in 2005, if you can remember, is a time when the Warriors were not winning very many basketball games. We were really bad, but the fans were always loud and vibrant, and Oracle Arena was energetic. And I worked on different special events and with companies and schools and churches and youth groups to bring large blocks of people to come to a game together. I grew up on the ticketing side of the Warriors and grew into ticket sales management there, and into senior level management at Gold State. And then in 2015, they asked me to come to Santa Cruz, and be the president here to learn how to run an entire organization versus just kind of like the vertical that I was in the ticketing space in Golden State. So I jumped on that opportunity. At the time, I had a 1.5-year-old boy. And now since I have, as you can see from the photo, we have a 11-year-old boy, a 9-year-old little girl that was born here, and then an 11-month-old little girl that was born here as well. So I guess by standards, the two little girls are the only Santa Cruz locals. I don't get to claim, but I'm getting there. Over 10 years, I feel like eventually I'll get there. So this is my family. Connor, Taylor, and Ren are my children. That's my lovely wife, Yo-Yo, and our dog, Poppy. We live near the hospital in Santa Cruz Gardens. That's where I've lived since I moved to Santa Cruz. I absolutely love it here. It's really one of the best places I could imagine living and raising a family. You have, obviously, the coast, the woods where we are today. You get a smaller community that really cares about each other and builds each other up and has a lot of pride in itself. And you get to be somebody that, I'm sure I have seen many of you before. I'm sure I will see many of you again. And that's kind of one of the best parts about Santa Cruz, in my opinion, is you get to work closely with people and then you see them at the grocery store, or whatnot. So it's really a tight-knit community that I enjoy being a part of. So talking a little bit about the G League, I think it's important to kind of frame like what the G League is. It's a lot of people don't necessarily know a ton about it. And I wanted to kind of just spend some time talking about the overall league so everybody has an understanding. There's 31 teams across the North America. So every single NBA team has like a G League team affiliate. You can best, if you're familiar with baseball, like the easiest way to comp it would be like we're AAA baseball. Right, so we are the minor league for the NBA, and there's 31 teams, even though there's only 30 teams in the NBA, because the NBA runs and operates a team in Mexico City, as well. So they are like the 31st G League team. It's a great opportunity for the NBA to continue to tap into the Latin America market and the huge market that Mexico City is as well. Our team was actually just there this past weekend, to play that team as well. Our season runs, we start about 2 weeks after the NBA. And we end about 2 weeks before the NBA. So the reasoning behind that is a lot of our younger players, like we exist to develop young basketball talent for NBA teams. That is like our core. It is the reason the G League exists. So you wait to start until about 2 weeks after the NBA begins playing games, because you have to kind of see like who didn't make an NBA roster. Right? Like these guys are right on the cusp. This is the second best basketball league in the world from a talent perspective. If you want to get to the NBA, you play in the G League. So you have to kind of see who doesn't make an NBA roster, and then they'll play in the G League. And then we end about 2 weeks before playoffs begin at the NBA level, because they want to make sure that any of those young guys that are a part of NBA teams and go back and forth can play in the playoffs with their NBA parent club after the G League season is complete. Yes. Yep. So In the past, we were called the D League, which stood for development, the NBA Development League. We moved to G because Gatorade entitled the league. So Gatorade paid us a partnership to entitle the league and really be like a good partner from like the research and science perspective. They do a lot of testing and work on guys' nutrition and how they recover. So there was a lot of like science involved in that partnership. But yes, we stayed the NBA G League. We will likely stay that again until somebody else maybe entitles the league, and then we may switch again. So we play a 50-game regular season that's split up into a couple of different buckets. So the first 14 games of your season, is anybody familiar with the NBA's, like they call it the in-season tournament? So like the NBA has, you play a bunch of games in November and some amount of those count in like a tournament format. And then the best teams would go to Las Vegas and play for like a in-season tournament title, right? So in the G League, our first 14 games are a part of what's called the Showcase Cup. So you play 7 games on the road, 7 games at home in the first 6 weeks of the season. Then the entire league goes to Orlando. So all 31 teams are in Orlando. And there's a tournament format there. And the winning team there, I think it's $100,000 split amongst the players. And they're like the Showcase Cup champions. At the Showcase, you play 2 games in Orlando, and that starts like the regular season. So at that point, your records reset. So whatever you did in the first 14 games, you go back to 0-0. And now we'll play a 36 game, the 2 in Orlando, and 34 regular season games. And that's what qualifies you to go to the playoffs or advance. As you'll see later in the presentation, very happy that the records reset this year. We didn't get off to the best start. So we're in a much better position now. And then the playoffs, they're interesting because, in the NBA, playoffs are a 7-game series, and there's 4 different rounds to win a title. The G League playoffs look a lot more like the NCAA tournament. It's single elimination. You lose, you go home. You win and you advance. The finals are a best of 3, but everything up to that point is single elimination basketball. We do play 24 games here in Santa Cruz. 21 out of our 24 games are on weekends. One of the core benefits, it's a lot better for our business to play on the weekends. I think our ticket revenue and other things are probably about 40% higher when we play on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday than they would be on a Monday to Thursday. So that's a considerable advantage for us to have weekend games. Across the league, I think they try to do a good job promoting more weekend games because it's good for fandom, like it's affordable family fun and entertainment. But many teams don't really have a great situation with their arena. They may be the 3rd or 4th tenant, or they don't own their building, so they don't have a lot of options for when they can play. It's one of the beauties of the investment the Warriors and our owners made here in Santa Cruz by building and operating an arena. We kind of control the dates that we play, so we can make sure that we play a healthy amount of our games, the dramatic majority on weekends, which is better for our fans. So everyone always asks me, like, how do we find our players? What does the roster look like? There's a lot of different nuances, but there's 2 basic tenets to how rosters are created. So you have those players that are in our NBA pipeline. So these players have a Golden State Warriors contract. They are Golden State Warriors like that. We have the rights to their playing career while they are with the Warriors. So whether they play at Gold State or in Santa Cruz, they're the Warriors. No other team can kind of take them from us. The G League player pool is basically the rest of your roster. So on the left, yes, your left, the NBA pipeline might be anywhere from like 2 to 5 players on your team at any given moment. The G League part is more like 8 to 10 players on your team. And those are players, and I'll walk you through some of the mechanisms of how we find them. But these players can be taken by any NBA team at any moment, or they could decide to go and play internationally and just go somewhere else. That's what makes it really challenging, right? Like we could have a point guard who's scoring 25 points a game a night, and they're playing really well, and they're doing amazing for us. And then the Chicago Bulls call, and they're gone tomorrow. And that's something that we are built to be excited about, right? Like we exist to get guys to the NBA, to help develop young talent for the NBA. Our core goal would be to send those guys to go to Golden State, right? We don't love being in the business of developing talent for other NBA teams, But if it helps these guys get to the NBA and accomplish their lifelong goal and kind of what's best for their career, we smile about it and we figure out the next man up and who's going to contribute towards our success. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you come out of college, you can enter the NBA draft. So in any given year, there's probably about 1,000 players that come out of college and only 60 get drafted. So the NBA draft only has 2 rounds. There's 60 players. And a lot of those players that get drafted also end up playing in the G League, as you'll see in a subsequent slide here. But if you don't get drafted, some of them that want to continue their career would try to try out for a G League team as well, or they may go overseas. So when we talk about like the exclusive NBA pipeline of talent, there's a bunch of players here and I'll walk through the different options. I don't need to read the entire slide. I know everybody can read, but just talking like holistically about it. So a 2-way contract player is a player, we're allowed to have up to 3 of those players on your team. Those are players that go back and forth between Golden State and Santa Cruz. So these may be players that, aren't good enough to have like a true Golden State contract all the time and be like a regular player there, but it's somebody that we may see a future in or want to continue to develop so that they can take on a bigger role at Golden State as we go forward. So this year, our 2-way players are Pat Spencer, Malachi Leones, and LJ Cryer. Pat is not going to play in Santa Cruz despite being a 2-way player. Like he's right on the cusp. And where Golden State's roster is overall, right? You have a really veteran team and several superstars that eat up a lot of the salary cap. So the ability for Golden State to have a player like Pat on a more manageable contract that could still contribute when needed and play at a high level, it is very valuable to the Warriors. So he's a 2-way player that will stay at Golden State all season. The other 2, LJ and Malachi, that aren't pictured here, will play largely with us this year. Guys that Golden State might see developing, we see something in them that maybe we want to continue to keep them growing and developing within our system and have an opportunity to elevate them in future seasons. But these guys, these 2-way players might play a game at Golden State last night, drive to Santa Cruz and practice and play a game with us tonight, go back after the game. Like they literally can go back and forth as often as possible. The NBA assignees. So this would be a player that is drafted by the Golden State Warriors, signs a contract with the Golden State Warriors. But for a lot of these young guys, like it's hard to get a lot of minutes at the NBA level, especially for a team like Golden State with a lot of veterans and a lot of players that are contributed to winning all the time. So somebody like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, these were guys, and Quentin Post in the top right. These are guys that have NBA contracts with Golden State. And in their first couple years, you're allowed to do this for your first 3 years. And they basically can get sent to Santa Cruz to develop just like a 2-way player does. They can go back and forth as often as you want throughout the year. They could come stay for a few weeks. It's really about development. So Moses Moody is the best example of this recently that's translated to the current team, where in his first couple of years, like he came out of college from Arkansas when he was 19 years old, needed to develop, but chose to develop in the G League and in the NBA like ecosystem. The NBA basketball game is a lot different than the college game. So if you are truly an NBA level talent and you will be an NBA player, getting into the NBA ecosystem, whether that's developing at the NBA level or developing in the G League, is going to be better for your career than staying in college from a basketball perspective. The defenses are different, the philosophies, the offensive styles and structures. It's completely different than the college game. So he came to Santa Cruz. He had a great attitude about it. He came here to develop. He was really excited about it. The best quote he ever gave when reporters were kind of asking him at Gold State, like, oh, you're playing in the G League. Like, how does it make you feel? And he said, like, I chose to develop in the G League. And he said, calm waters don't make great sailors. He's like, the adversity of coming and like not being with in the NBA, you're private jets, you're staying in the Ritz-Carlton, like everything is very nice for your life. Our players, like we fly commercial, we stay in hotels that many of you might not stay in at times. And it's really more of a grind. And you have guys that are trying to get to the NBA level. So Jonathan, Moses both played games with us and go back and forth. Not anymore, but earlier in their career they did. And then draft rights players are a little different nuance. So someone like Guy Santos, so Golden State drafted him a couple of years ago, didn't sign him to an NBA contract, but signed him to a G League deal instead. So we retained his rights at the NBA. Nobody else could take him. But he developed in Santa Cruz for a season and a half, has gotten called up to Gold State, and is now regularly in the rotation and playing well with a lot of effort at Gold State. So there's a variety of ways your NBA pipeline can get you to the NBA and develop these young players. Quentin Post, just briefly on him. So he was with us last season, played about the first 5 or 6 weeks with us. And the funny story was I was actually at the Gold State game with some clients from Santa Cruz, and Quentin got called up to play a game at Gold State. He made like 6 3-pointers, and all my clients were like laughing at me like, he's not coming back. And he's never been back to Santa Cruz since. He's come for some community stuff, but he won't play a game with us again. He's the starting center on the Golden State Warriors, started here in Santa Cruz last year. The other mechanisms, like I said, that are, kind of the how you fill out the rest of your roster. You have 8 to 10, just like G League contract players. Pictured here is Juan Toscano Anderson, who started his career in Santa Cruz, played hard for us for a season or two, got a call up to the Golden State Warriors, then got an NBA contract with the Golden State Warriors, won a championship with them in 2022. He's a great poster child because I think that is the type of kind of player archetype that most commonly gets you called up to the NBA. A lot of guys sometimes think you got to score 30 points a night in the G League and you got to be the star and you got to take 25 shots, and that's your best path to the NBA. Probably not. Every NBA team has plenty of guys that could score 25 points a night. They don't need like another one of them that only can shoot. Somebody like Juan, who started in the G League, he was a great defender, great team player, hustled harder than anybody, probably 10 to 12 points a game, 8 to 10 rebounds a game, a few steals, a couple blocks, jack of all trades. He got to the NBA and had a multi-year NBA career, right? Guy Santos is in that same concept right now. And I think that's what's really exciting to watch is guys be able to. Juan, we found at a tryout. He wasn't heavily regarded. He wasn't heavily recruited. We found him. We developed him. He went to the NBA and played for multiple years, and it's pretty exciting for him. So there's different mechanisms, like I said, to kind of to build the rest of your roster. But anybody that kind of comes through any of these channels here, any NBA team can call them at any time. So again, yes. Yep. Totally. So we're allowed to have 10 G League roster players, and then the NBA things are in addition. So we have 10 no matter what. What really the struggle is if, earlier part of this season, the first 6 weeks, we had 2 or 3 guys that we knew were going to be hurt that entire time, but we wanted to get them healthy, be a part of the rehabilitation, and now they're actually playing successfully for us now. So we only had 8 healthy bodies. And then if you don't get any of your NBA players for those games, it's tough to play a basketball game with 8 guys. So I think and you don't get to add more. So it is a roster flexibility is a challenge for sure. And then I think the other big dynamic with the G League thing is, imagine your G League team is playing really well and you're starting, small forward is your best player and he's scoring 20 points and has 10 rebounds. He's the best player and he's got a true shot to get to the NBA. But then, Gold State has a guy like Moses Moody who needs to develop a couple of years ago. So he comes to Santa Cruz. Well, he doesn't come to Santa Cruz to sit on the bench, right? He comes to Santa Cruz to play 35 minutes. So that guy that had been playing really well for you is now on the bench. And he's now coming off the bench and playing more of a role. That can really create a lot of tension, right, in the locker room when you're trying everything you can to get to the next level, and you might even be better than the guy that Gold State's sending, or playing better in the moment, or giving us a better chance to win tonight in Santa Cruz. But we prioritize the long-term development of the players at Gold State. However, I think one of the things that we do differently from a lot of other teams, and how I credit our GM, our front office on the basketball side that builds our roster, we really do a deep dive into the character of these guys before we bring them into our team. We don't have ego first players. We have them definitely a team first mindset. We kind of develop everyone so that when that situation happens and Moses comes, the person that goes to the bench is like ready to play his role off the bench for those 15 to 20 minutes he'll get that night, and they'll be positive about it. And then when we lose one of your best players, a couple of years ago, we lost one of our best players to the Chicago Bulls the game before the playoffs started. So you've got to hope that you've got enough of a camaraderie and a cohesion and a great team bond that next guy's ready to step into that role and be able to play well as well. But it definitely can be a dynamic that you face, but we truly don't focus on bringing in guys that might have a bigger ego or whatnot. And sometimes that you sacrifice some talent with that, but we think it's better for the cohesion of the team, and playing team basketball, we think is our best chance to win. So just a couple of quick comparisons from like when I came to the G League in 2015 and where we are today, just to see like the rapid ascension of growth of the league. There were 18 teams in 2015. So at this point, and the Warriors brought the team to Santa Cruz in 2012, late 2012. There's 18 teams then. It really just, again, like NBA teams realizing, hey, we need a G League team to develop our young talent. Young talent sitting on the side of the end of the bench not playing isn't helping them to develop. So a lot of teams really made an effort to grow their G League presence. Yes. Yeah. So obviously when, we bought the team that was in North Dakota, and we knew we were going to relocate it to the, somewhere near the home, the mothership. And we evaluated a lot of different markets. And one of the big things that we liked about Santa Cruz at the time when we chose Santa Cruz was you're kind of far enough away from the mothership that like you can be focused here and develop here and like you're here. But you're close enough that like, you could still get up to practice with the NBA team if you want, or you could still go back and forth in the same day. You don't feel like you're like cast aside, right? So proximity to the parent club, there's a few different NBA philosophies. One team, you get on like one or two teams, like their G League team's a plane flight away from where their NBA club is. Miami Heat's G League team is in Sioux Falls, Iowa. And they view it, their philosophy is like when you're going to develop, like, get out of here. Like they're gone for several weeks. Like it's, they might view it as like a little bit more of, depending on the player, it might be more of like demotion type, like, hey, you're not doing what you need to do at the NBA level. Like go figure it out. Some teams go the other way and they play a mile from their NBA parent club. Those teams have a lot of synergy on the basketball side. They probably also, I would say, they punt on the business, right? If you're in the same market as your parent club, you don't really have a great chance to succeed from a business perspective. The majority of teams do kind of have like our situation. They're somewhere between an hour and 1 and 2 hours away. So you're like able to run a business and be an independent franchise, but you're able to be really close and practice a lot. Our team probably practices just as often at Golden State as they practice in Santa Cruz, to have that exposure to the coaching staff, to have that exposure to the other players, to be that kind of that NBA, as you can imagine, the facilities at Golden State as Chase Center is just a little bit higher quality than what we have here today. But it's that proximity is, each team has a different philosophy. The last stat here that's interesting at the bottom. So 10 years ago, about 30% of players at the NBA had played in the G League, right? Today, at the start of the season, about 60% of players, so 3 out of every 5 players in the NBA had played in the G League at some point. And this number consistently is going up every year. And you're going to get to the point where I think last year the majority of first round NBA draft picks still played games in the G League at some point last year. So really, your only path to like not playing in the G League at some point or developing is probably just being like a top 10 NBA pick and you play really well right away. You get a guy like Zion Williamson who like went to Duke, did absolutely amazing. Cooper Flag this year, consensus #1 pick, gets drafted by Dallas. He's starting right away. He's playing very well right away. Like he'll never play games for their G League affiliate unless he's in like an injury rehab type situation. So this is what the map of where teams were, back in 2014, 10 seasons ago, kind of spread out predominantly the Northeast, obviously a little pocket in the West Coast, little pocket in that Texas area. And then here's where it is today. So it looks a lot more like the NBA map. It's truly the entire country. You have Mexico City in the south. You have Raptors 905, which plays in Mississauga, Ontario, which is outside of Toronto. So truly like the full country. You still have a lot of East Coast bias, a lot of like heavier amount of teams on the East Coast, just like the NBA and all professional leagues, but you really see a true mix throughout the country. So getting into a few different success stories, like I said, we'll talk about on the court, off the court, and along the court. So on the court, in the last couple seasons, we've had 6 players that have gone from Santa Cruz to get NBA contracts with Golden State. Lester Quinones, who's now no longer with Golden State, but he did get an NBA contract there. Guy Santos, Pat Spencer, both those guys are still on Golden State with contracts with Golden State. Jackson Rowe is someone that came from Santa Cruz. He was a 2-way contract player with us to start this season. We decided to make a change and let him go, and we gave that 2-way contract spot to LJ Cryer, who's our, probably one of our better players. He is one of our better players in Santa Cruz as well. He's a great shooting offensive point guard. So we've had 6 players in the last couple of years that started with good old-fashioned Santa Cruz contracts that have elevated to Gold State contracts. And then notable, we talk about some of the historical stuff. Juan Toscano Anderson, we referenced him. So Damian Lee won titles with Golden State. Seth Curry, the other Curry, started in Santa Cruz as well. Got a contract with Cleveland and then Memphis, a couple other names there. And then the special cases of these like 4 guys on the bottom, I'm just spending a minute. Both Steph Curry and Klay Thompson have played with Santa Cruz before. Neither have suited up in a game, but as they've come back from injuries, if you're in the NBA, in the middle of an NBA season, they're not exactly practicing like 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, really running hard all the time because they have so many games that they play at the NBA level. Their practices look a little different. So if you're Steph and you're coming back, he played with us was when he was coming back from his hand injury in 2021. He came and practiced with us for like a week just so he could get reps, right? And be able to go full speed and play with some real competition that you can't put the NBA guys through on an off day because they've got games so frequently. So it was great having him in Santa Cruz. He really was a mentor to a lot of the younger players and trying to help them with different things, but also getting his work in. And it did wonders for our team at the time to see how a guy like Steph Curry, who had already won 3 championships and had already won several MVPs, and who he was, how hard he worked, how much attention he put into every single repetition and everything he did. And it helped shape some of our players. Similarly, Klay Thompson, when he was coming back from his injuries a couple years ago, practiced in Santa Cruz for about a week with us as well. He stayed at a house in Aptos. He had the whole team over for the Super Bowl, like true great teammate as well. He loves Santa Cruz. His brother played in Santa Cruz in the early years here. He loves the beach. He loves the water. He's got a boat. Like he would play in Santa Cruz every day if it paid him and was the NBA level of notoriety. James Wiseman was a highly drafted player for Golden State a few years ago. Between injuries and just lack of development, like really struggled, eventually came to Santa Cruz, played with us for a little bit. The fun parts about guys like this that do impact our business a lot, when he was assigned to Santa Cruz and that goes out on in the media, we couldn't sell tickets fast enough. Like Ticketmaster went crazy. Like the next 4 or 5 games sold out right away because people wanted to see that level of talent that was playing here. So that it's always a nice boost to our business when these things happen as well. And then Jordan Poole, for anybody that's a Golden State fan has watched, he's won a title with Golden State. Jordan Poole was somebody that Golden State drafted through his first 2 years, really like couldn't find his footing, like just wasn't wasn't very good with Golden State, was probably not going to, get his contract re-signed, was about to be out of the league. And then he came to us and played with us for the bubble season, which is when the whole league went to Orlando during COVID, right when COVID started, to play a season there. And he played really well with us. He took charge. He was averaging 25 points a night. He played extremely well and kind of like found his rhythm and his confidence, and then went back to Golden State, played extremely well, helped them with a title, and earned a $120 million contract. Like he was literally on the way out until he came to Santa Cruz and developed within our system and kind of found himself again. And now he's generationally wealthy and still plays in the NBA now as well. I think along the court, this is another area where we just have a tremendous amount of success. It's less notable as obviously watching players go back and forth, but this is a core part of who we are. We don't only develop players on the court, it's coaches, it's front office, it's support staff, it's the entire ecosystem. So these are the 6 coaches. At the top is the 6 coaches in franchise history, and all of them are now either with our last 3 head coaches are still on the Golden State staff, with Chris, Seth, and Nick. And then our current head coach came to us from the last 4 years at Golden State. So that's really been our model in the last handful of coaches. You kind of get your start at Golden State in the video room or on the basketball support staff. You're kind of building into being an aspiring young coach. Then you come to Santa Cruz, maybe you're an assistant for a year, or you're the head coach here for a season or 2. And then you go back to Golden State. So now you've got some head coaching experience. You understand that role better. You're better suited to help them on the coaching staff because you've done the head coaching job as well. It's that next step of development. So our last 4 coaches has been 2 seasons in Santa Cruz and then back to Golden State. So I can say, like Nick, for example, Nick loved Golden State. Or loves Santa Cruz. Like him and his wife bought a house here. They had, 2 young kids here. They love Santa Cruz. He wanted to stay in Santa Cruz and keep coaching here. But it's not like if we don't move him back to Golden State, it doesn't allow for like that next coach to come up and get their shot, right? And it was probably even though they loved Santa Cruz and coaching here and living here, it was probably the right thing for his development to like get back to Golden State and be at that level. So now Lane Wilson, pictured here, is our head coach. He spent the last 4 seasons with Golden State, and he's our head coach here now in Santa Cruz. And then not just head coaches, but there's also on the current basketball staff at Golden State, there's 17 other people that started their career in Santa Cruz and on our basketball staff, from trainers to assistants, people in player development, our medical staff. So it truly is a pipeline where in Santa Cruz, you do a little bit of everything, right? You're kind of a jack of all trades. You understand what traveling commercial and staying in the so-so hotels and like how to really grind is, and you kind of earn your stripes and prove your worth, and then you get an opportunity at Golden State. And at Golden State, you kind of go more into like a niche, right? The people that are analyzing video or doing basketball analytics aren't also the people doing the on-court work at Golden State with players. In Santa Cruz, you're kind of got to do all of it, right? Ron. Ron's worried about the real estate of Coach Kerr. Yes. So they moved their family to Golden State and to San Francisco. Too hard with how much these guys travel, and they're on the road to like consistently, to have a wife and 2 young children in Santa Cruz, but he'd be flying all over the country for NBA basketball games all the time. It wouldn't have really worked. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've had, our most prominent development on the female side of our coaching group would be Shannon Stabler, who's our assistant general manager. So she helps with kind of, anything tied to the life and operations of our basketball group. So less about talent evaluation and building a roster, more about like anything tied to travel, all their housing, all their food, all their logistics, making sure their families are coming into town and visiting appropriately, like making sure they're developing as human beings off the court. So Shannon started in Santa Cruz on the business side of our team, had an interest in developing on the basketball side. And because she had done so well and proven how great she is as a team member on the business side, we transferred her to the basketball side, and she's really grown and keeps elevating. Our head athletic trainer this year is also a woman by the name of Leah. She's doing a great job. So we really try to kind of promote that as well. We haven't had a woman on the like as a technical assistant or head coach yet. I think you'll start to see more and more of that kind of like league wide, right? Like if we rewind 10 years or even 5 years, there just wasn't as many women getting opportunities in the coaching ranks. And now as you're getting more and more of that, you'll start to have more and more quality candidates rise to the level. Maybe they've done it in college for a little bit and rise to the level of saying, hey, we're hiring you as a G League coach because you're worth it as a coach, not because you're a woman, because you have earned it as a coach. So I think you'll see more and more of that as you go forward.
Is there any relationship between the Santa Cruz Warriors and the WNBA? Because the WNBA is going to need to have the same talent development issues. And I'm wondering if you see a role in there.
So we're all one family at Golden State. So like, you know, the Valkyries, we welcome them in. They're our sister that we welcomed in this past season. I think eventually the W will need a minor league system. I think we're really long ways away from that. You know, they'll be at, I think 16 teams this season. You know, I think, and that the talent development that they're experiencing at the NBA level is strong, or the WNBA level is strong, but there's not a ton of depth there either. So there's probably still many more major market cities across America that will get a WNBA team before there's a need for necessarily like the minor league system within that ecosystem. But I do think it's a part of the future. Will that be in Santa Cruz or some other place? You know, it's way too early to tell.
Any chance the Valkyries could come down and play in Santa Cruz?
You would be surprised to hear how often I beat that drum up the street at Golden State. Since before we announced that we had purchased a WNBA team, I was like, oh, they should play a game in Santa Cruz, maybe a preseason game, play anything. But as you may be aware, like the success of the Valkyries has never before been seen in women's sports. You know, we broke every record in the history of the business and on the court. In this first season at Golden State, they sold out Chase Center for every single one of their home games. So I think in a league where they're still trying to kind of build strong and healthy businesses, like kind of league wide, I think they would be giving up a 7-figure amount of money to play a game here and take it out of Chase Center. So as much as I would love it, as much as the community would love it, as much as I know we'd have like a great crowd and it'd be an amazing experience, it's probably not the right, like responsible thing to do for their business as they continue to try to grow the business of the WNBA and the Valkyries, to kind of best compensate players and other things as well. We are having a game in Santa Cruz on March 27th where it's our like Valkyries night. So we bring down like their mascot. We have like the giveaway that night is Valkyries themed. Their coach will be here. You know, we do a lot of other things like kind of as they lead into their season. We have one game here, but it's highly unlikely we ever get them to play a game here. I mean, they sell 18,000 seats in San Francisco every single night and sell out. So it's tough to play for 2,500 here. As much as I'd love it, trust me. Yes.
What's the price of a ticket?
In Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
So price changes based on like the game, right? If you're going to a Monday night, it's going to be less expensive than like a Saturday. But our average ticket price is somewhere between probably like $42 and $46 across like the whole building.
And two, where do the players' salaries fit in your P&L? Is it in yours or Golden State?
So it's an interesting nuance to the league. So earlier in the presentation, I was talking about like the NBA pipeline of players that have NBA contracts. Those are Golden State's P&L. The G League side of the ledger, we actually don't pay the players. The league pays the players. And the contracts are held with the G League. Because again, if we paid the players, then we would control their rights. And if the Chicago Bulls wanted one of our players, they would have to trade for him or compensate us. And it might slow down the speed of development of guys getting to the NBA that are ready for that step. So the league holds the contracts with the players, so that it's truly an open flow model of like, if a guy's ready, if an NBA team wants to give somebody a shot, they're on a plane the next morning.
Chris, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you finished with your presentation? Because we seem to have shifted into Q&A, and I wondered if you had more.
I'm not, but I don't mind answering questions.
Okay, well,
We'll get there. I know we got a hard stop, but we'll get there. Yes, Kathy.
wait, I'm coming.
New proposed arena in downtown Santa Cruz.
So we'll save that one for the end, just because that, I imagine there's a lot of questions on that. And I want to be able to answer them, but that'll definitely sidetrack kind of the finishing this piece up. So the off the court success briefly. So we have, there's been 18 people on the business side of our group that have grown into roles at Golden State as well. The photo here is of a hallway in our offices where when somebody gets called up to a role at Golden State, we get a jersey made with their name on the back and we hang it in the hallway. So it's almost like our own little walk of fame down our main hallway. There's, between business and basketball, there's over 35 jerseys hanging there throughout the years as well. So our best performers really have two common routes. They can grow into a role at Golden State, or they can grow into management in Santa Cruz. Obviously, the third route that we don't always love is when they grow into roles at other teams. But again, if it's helping our business staff kind of like elevate their career and continue that next step somewhere else, we're happy for them as well. Our biggest challenge here in Santa Cruz from a business perspective is staffing. It's really everybody, if I post a job on our business staff, I will get 300 or 400 resumes within 24 hours. The sports industry, there's millions of people all over the country that want to work at sports. So we will get tons of resumes. And when we find the most qualified person and the people that we think will be best for the role, a lot of times I wish they would do it sooner in the process as young professionals, but then they start to look at what the costs of housing are, or the costs of other things. And we get all the way to the finish line and we're offering them a job and they know the salary for the 3 weeks that we've been interviewing them. But then it's like, yeah, I can't afford to live there. So for us, we'd love to bring that up earlier. But yeah, finding staff due to housing is really challenging for us, getting people to relocate here. A lot of the sports industry, most of our staff is earlier in their professional careers, one of their first or second jobs in sports as they keep trying to build and elevate into a role at like the Warriors. So our local talent pipeline, most of our people come from like a business school or a business background. Doesn't mean they went to get like an MBA, but they were in a sports management degree or maybe business or marketing. Obviously, this amazing institution here doesn't focus as hard on that area. So we don't have the same pipeline of like local college grads that are like dying to get into the sports industry. So we have to relocate people a lot to get them here. And the housing has just been a really huge challenge for us. I'd say about 80% of our staff doesn't live in Santa Cruz, our business staff. They live either in like deep South County or they live in the San Jose-ish area because they can find more affordable housing. Pardon? I don't know that I would want the HR liability of, 25, 20-year-olds in a house that the company operates. That's not a liability we want to take on either. The other challenge is like at the end of the day, by the time we go through and find somebody and they want to live here and they can afford to live here and they want to relocate here, like as many of you maybe in your professional career have experienced, you're not always right on who you hire. Right? Like you don't automatically, not everybody shows up on day one, and operates the same way as they may have shared an interview, or maybe the fit isn't as great, or sometimes you don't succeed in who you hire. So that, that sets us back quite a bit. In Santa Cruz, we run a much leaner operation on the business side. So when we have, I recently had our head of ticket sales, he welcomed a new baby boy, which was amazing. We were so excited that he got to go out on paternity leave. but guess who became the new director of ticket sales for 3 months, on top of all of our other work, right? Like, so I think it's something that we don't have the level of depth because we try to run a leaner operation, versus if Gold State has somebody go out on medical leave or on vacation, or they lose somebody and they have a few months before they can replace, they've got multiple other people in the management structure of that department that can kind of pick up the work. So our arena, we hold just under 2,500 people there. Currently in the middle of a 51 game sellout streak, was just over 2 seasons. We won our game last night, which was a great game. Was anybody at the game last night? All right, that was nice. Yeah, pretty good. It felt good to get a win at home right now. We host about 80-ish events annually. So we only play 25-ish Santa Cruz Warriors games. So we have far more other things going on. UCSC plays men's and women's basketball there. We've hosted different volleyball games throughout the years. We'll have gymnastics conventions and martial arts and tattoo shows, and we do the Boys and Girls Club playoffs. Like, there's all sorts of different community events in there as well. We had the MLK graduation ceremony with UCSC last year. So just a lot of different events that we try to use the building for throughout the year. So this season at a glance, and I know I want to wrap up so I can answer questions, but so that first part of the season, like I said, the first 14 games that don't necessarily count in your overall record, we really struggled. We had never experienced anything like this before. We went 1-13. We had a lot of young players that had never before they were rookies to the G League. Only 1 out of our 10 had ever been in the G League before. So when you've got 9 guys that are not used to the speed, the pace, the physicality, those offensive and defensive philosophies, it was a lot of development. We had a couple of injuries, so we played with 7 guys a couple times. We weren't seeing as many players from Gold State, so it was a struggle. But then records reset, and we're currently 6-4 in the regular season, which is in 5th in the conference. The top 8 teams make the playoffs. Out of that 6-4, only 3 of those have been home games. So I think as we continue to play more games at home and really keep developing, we're in line for a strong season here ahead. I will say, I do love to note the last point. We won the title in 2015. We went to the finals the first 3 years we were in Santa Cruz. And we won the title the 3rd try in 2015. I got here in the fall of 2015. So all my peers at Gold State love to remind me that we haven't won a title since I've got here. And I like to remind them that I primarily run the business, not the basketball. And we win every business award, but we haven't been able to win a title since we got here. And that is definitely one that we want. The rest of this season, we have 14 games remaining at home. 12 of those are on weekends. We actually play tomorrow as well. We have a rare kind of like a matinee game. Tomorrow's at 2:00. We play 1 game a year at Chase Center in San Francisco. So it's a Sunday game, a Sunday afternoon game coming up on March 1st. The Jimmy Butler Santa Cruz bobblehead, it gets given out at that game to the first 10,000 fans. It's really a great opportunity for us to expose the larger Bay Area to our Santa Cruz brand and our Santa Cruz Warriors. We'll have 10,000 people at that game. It's really a great opportunity to have more affordable ticketing and entertainment in the Bay Area as well. The Gold State tickets are really, really in demand right now, so their ticket pricing has gotten is higher. And then for like this game, people can go to this game for $20 or $30, sit in the lower level, be close to the court. All of our season ticket holders get their same seat in San Francisco as they do here in Santa Cruz for that game. So if you sit right behind the bench at Santa Cruz, you get the first row behind the bench at Gold State. You don't pay any extra money or anything. So it's really an amazing experience that we play that game up there every year. We do have off the table to your right, there is like a half sheet flyer that if anybody from OLLI wants tickets to any game the rest of the year, you can use a code online and save $10 on every ticket. We wanted to make sure there was an opportunity for this group to engage as well. We do a lot of community work. I kind of listed out just like some of the different things that we do, but we're really in the schools quite a bit. We do reading programs, math, health and wellness in the schools. Swishes for Dishes is our annual program with Second Harvest Food Bank, where for every single point our team scores, we donate 15 meals to Second Harvest Food Bank. So we've donated over 250,000 meals in the last couple of years to Second Harvest. Thank you. This year alone, we think it'll be around 80 to 90,000 meals that we'll donate to Second Harvest. We do elements with the Pride community, mentorship. We work with farm workers in both South and North County. We have different games throughout the year that are more cultural celebrations. Last night, we did our Los Warriors night in partnership with the Latino community. It was great. March is Women's Empowerment Month. We have different elements that we do within the community and at games that month. Season of Giving, we have a lot of basically the Thanksgiving to Christmas window where we do, we help Jacob's Heart wrap gifts. We do a Thanksgiving meal, pick up for a lot of families in need that we provide their Thanksgiving meal. And just a lot of different things that we try to get out into the community as often as we can. Our C-Dubs Helping Hands is our front office volunteer program where each month we do a different volunteer. We get out in the community and do a volunteer event in the community throughout the season or throughout the whole year. So I think when we came to Santa Cruz, this community opened its arms and wrapped their arms around us and has been super supportive since we got here. And we do everything in our power to kind of open our arms and wrap everybody up the same way. Not because we have to, but because we want to. We feel like it's something that we want to be a part of, and it's a role that we can play to help uplift the community as well. So now questions. Kathy, I know you asked the question about the new arena. So we are working towards building a new arena in downtown Santa Cruz. At the end of the day, like our building is great, like our best fans in the league on a game night. There's no beating Kaiser Permanente Arena when it's loud and 2,500 people and a lot of people know each other. And I think one of the best parts about a home game in Santa Cruz is it really is that beacon of the town. Like you have people set aside their differences at the door and everybody walks in and they're high-fiving and cheering and supporting the Warriors. And it's a lot of fun to walk around that building, and it's hard to walk. Any one of you could go to a game and there's no way you could take 10 steps without seeing somebody you know. And that truly is like the best part of being there. But we don't have a lot of things that we need in a building. That building was meant to be temporary. All of our locker rooms and back of house stuff and our strength room, everything's in like trailers outside. There's no kitchen in that building for fans and concessions. There's just like a lot of things we need in the future of a building. So we're working towards building a new arena downtown, an arena that'll host basketball, that'll host concerts. It may, we're working with the symphony to potentially have the symphony have a home there and have the right types of sound that it needs to be world-class there. All sorts of events. We anticipate 125-ish events a year that are ticketed and, community events and whatnot in a new building. We're not trying to get much bigger. I think we're 2,500 now. I think we're thinking about 3,000 seats from a venue perspective. So a little bit bigger. And primarily because if we get a little bit bigger, 3,000 seats for basketball can grow to about 3,600, 3,700 for a concert. And it allows you to attract a lot better talent from a concert perspective. We'll never have Taylor Swift in Santa Cruz, but we can get those people that are on the up and coming that, they go in between LA and San Francisco and they kind of work the West Coast, and we can get stronger acts so that when anybody wants to go to a concert, a show, a speaker or whatnot, they don't always have to go over the hill for it. We will be able to do that right here locally. I don't know how, yes, Kathy. So all of the people that raised their hands earlier that have been to a game, where do you park? In the parking structure downtown? In the neighborhood, in the street. So we have 2,500 people sold out every night that come to our games now. We don't have parking now. It's probably one of the biggest benefits to the downtown community and the downtown businesses is that everybody parks more closer to the downtown, and every restaurant is packed, every bar is packed. It's impossible to walk up and down Pacific or anywhere downtown. If you didn't have a reservation or were planning to go to dinner before, it's really tough to walk in because it's packed on a game night. So it really, when you talk to the local business owners downtown, they love game night because their business is thriving prior. So, growing a little bit, parking, we're continuing to evaluate what that looks like. But I think people have figured out over the course of the last 14 seasons where to park for our games. So there's likely not going to be a big parking structure right next to the new arena either.
Hi, I'm going to ask a question that's a different aspect
Mhm.
from my public health and nutrition perspective. I'm interested in how you support the mental health of the players as well as what guidelines you give for them to eat. Like, are there, because I'm familiar with a lot of athletes eating really, really unhealthy food just to fill because they're burning so many calories. So are there any nutritional guidelines? And also, given the tremendous pressure they're under to excel and play and, you know, on their bodies, is there any mental health support? Thanks.
Yep. So on the mental health side, there's a couple of different pathways. So we do have a mental performance coach at Golden State that players have access to work with. We also have through the NBA office, they have access to mental health providers as well. Similar to a lot of things, it's kind of like their desire or their responsibility to opt in and to do those things. Because of the confidentiality, like we don't get report backs on like who's doing it or not. We make those services available and we kind of encourage, but we don't know like how often they're using it because obviously the confidentiality. On the nutrition side, we do have our strength and performance coach in Santa Cruz really works with guys on kind of the right way to fuel their bodies to recover differently after a game versus a practice to prep for a game. We provide a lot of food from our perspective for our players, and we do have nutritionists at Golden State as well. At the end of the day, like the majority of our players are 22 to 26. Like we can make every single opportunity and benefit available to them. But if they decide to DoorDash McDonald's, like we're not, we're not letting them, right? Like they're adults. But I think what you find is like these guys are doing everything in their power to get to the NBA. So as we teach them more about how their body is more inclined to perform at a high level with proper nutrition, they're, those that are really on the cusp and want to get to the next level lean into that, right? And they listen to it. And I'm sure they probably DoorDash some local things too, that may not be as healthy, but we really lean into trying to help them fuel their body in the right way. Mark, are in the back.
Are there proposed locations for the new arena?
Yes, so the new arena will either be on the site that it sits today, in which case we would probably have to like find an alternate site for a year or two to go play and then come back to a new building, or it'll be across the street. Those are the two locations that we're looking at. So you could throw a baseball and hit, the new arena from where you're sitting in the arena today. Yes.
Wait.
You mentioned there's a promotional event involving the Valkyries, and I'm looking at your schedule. Did you say the 27th?
March 27th.
So is it during the game or before the game? Because it's not on the schedule.
So it's like the whole game is like a themes of like Valkyries night. So like I said, we'll have like their mascot, their elements. We're still working out every final detail. That's why the website doesn't list every detail. But that's our Valkyries night that should be announced in the next 10 days.
Okay, great.
So if you want to get good location tickets before we announce that, make it a bigger deal, I would do that in the next week or so. Other questions that anyone has? Yes.
Wait a minute.
Timing for the new arena was the question. I'll save you, Mark. So, we're really working towards, it's a fluid concept, right? Like I'd love the timing for the new arena to be tomorrow. But it's still probably 3 or 4 seasons away. I think the biggest crux that we're facing now is just trying to come up with the full financing strategy for how we fund the arena. Like I said, like our business as the Santa Cruz Warriors, like doesn't exist to be like wildly profitable. Like we exist to develop basketball players for Golden State's benefit and other teams. So there is a funding mechanism and a strategy that we're trying to work through right now to employ to be able to put forward to build a new arena. And that's kind of what we're working on now and with our local partners as well. The new arena will come with housing, above other parts of the district, restaurants and retail shops and bars and kind of a lot of community access and a plaza and like a lot of different facets that Santa Cruz doesn't have right now that we think would be beneficial for the